So a friend asked me the other day, well, what are you speaking about this Sunday? I said, I think I'm going to talk about Lent. He looked at me and he said, I didn't know Unity did Lent. And I said, well, it's really our choice, and that's one thing I like about Unity. It's our choice. So as the Spirit leads, the topics come. But here's something I learned. I love learning stuff. Mardi Gras. I always thought it was just a big debauchery party down in New Orleans. Didn't know when it happened, just sometime in February. Actually, it occurs on Fat Tuesday, which is the day before Ash Wednesday. Now, these are all things that are not what I participate in. Ash Wednesday is the beginning of 40 days prior to Easter. And the day prior to Ash Wednesday is Mardi Gras, Fat Tuesday. So all the people do all the stuff that they're going to give up all at once. They party and have fun and all the sin. I say that lightly, because come Wednesday, they become holy. Where does the ash come from? When I lived in Kansas City, I would see people with a lot of cross, or sometimes just a smudge. The ashes come from the palms of the previous Easter, the palms that are burned to provide continuity. So all of this I just find fascinating. Sometimes Lent can be like a fad. Well, I'm giving up chocolate. Well, I'm going to give up my soap opera. I'm not going to watch it for the next 40 days. I'm going to give up this. I'm going to give up that. But Charles Fillmore, our co-founder, had a different approach. Everything we do is about consciousness, our consciousness, and our connection with the divine presence. So he suggested that if we take an approach of 40 days of giving up our complaining, giving up our comparing, giving up our judging, giving up all of the stuff that we know is not good for our consciousness, it's not good for our bodies, and it's certainly not good for our hearts. Do you know, Lent, some people believe it's about the events leading up to the crucifixion and the resurrection, but that's not true. Lent is a church-made institution. Nothing in the Bible about Lent whatsoever. It's church-made. But it does have really good precedent, because 40 is one of those numbers that metaphysically means prepare, 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 prepare for 40 days to receive. Jesus, before starting his ministry, went into the desert for 40 days. Moses, before he received the 10 Commandments, went away from all those crazy people and crazy thoughts, went up to the mountain for 40 days, and then received. And what were they doing in these 40 days? They were in prayer and fasting. Oh, I love food so much. I've never fasted. And I'll admit that. I haven't. But I care very much about nutrition and what I eat and what I put in my body and how much. Because I started thinking, I thought, boy, if I went 40 days without food, I would probably be hallucinating. I could call it from God. Maybe it would be. I don't know. But 40 days. So I want to share something with you. These little stories are my inspiration. When will I be enlightened? When you see, the Master said. See what? trees and flowers and moon and stars. But I see these every day. No, what you see are paper trees, paper flowers, paper moons, and paper stars. For you live not in reality, but in your words and thoughts. And for good measure, he added gently, you live a paper life and will die a paper death. So what if I told you you have 40 days to go from a paper life, paper reality, into a true experience of the divine presence, the sweet spirit that's the truth of all of us? What if I told you you have 40 days? What if we really took Lent seriously and made a commitment to be ready to receive a real resurrection in our lives, a coming out of the true reality that we have the potential to experience? Now, I'm a double Taurus. I love nature. That's why I also like good food. When we can be still and really take in what is around us, there's a connection that's made. Yesterday was so windy, and I just sat there and watched the bushes and the trees, and I'm thinking, man, they're having a ball. They are loving this. And they probably were. And I felt a connection. I wasn't just looking out the door saying, boy, it's windy. Be glad when this stops. Don't want this to blow away or that to blow away. Just having the blessing of watching nature enjoy themselves. This morning, looking out my bedroom at the lemon tree, and then beyond it, there's another tree. And I'm thinking, nobody's telling that lemon tree when to drop its lemons. That tree isn't meddling in the other tree's business. These trees know how to get along. I want to be a tree, a real tree, and take my cues from the divine presence within. So what am I giving up? Well, let's just take a look here. I would say high heels, but that's a lie. Prayer and fasting. Stop feeding the negativity. Catch yourself in it. Don't beat yourself up. Just stop it. Just drop it. Stop the negativity. Part of this 40 days of abstinence is a purification process. We know the story of the 40 nights of flooding, rain day and night, Noah's Ark. We know all of that. That was a purification process. When we purify our consciousness, I guarantee you, we'll be happier people. We'll be happier people. How many are glued to the news? It's good to be informed, but not addicted. It's good to know what's going on, but leave your opinions in the dust. Turn within and know what you are called to do. If anything, maybe your calling is just to visualize a world that works for all. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me, inside me. That's not a calling to run around with peace sign. It's a calling to be peace. Be peace. Carry peaceful vibrations. Okay. So, also, it's not enough to just refrain from something, to stop. Because then there's an open space in your mind. This is where we get to feast. We get to turn within and remember the truth that makes us free. And you've got all the support you could possibly want when you surround yourself with positive, loving people, when you listen to positive, loving music, when you read books that inspire you, that show you. But the most important thing is to be honest with yourself. Oh, there's always, last Sunday I mentioned the scripture, get thee behind me, get thee behind me. So when I find myself sliding into that space, I have to say, get thee behind me, get thee behind me. But there's always this little voice that just says, oh, come on, take a bite. Just a bite. It's not going to hurt anything. Anger can be really spicy, right? Judgment, oh, that can be juicy, just a little bit. You don't have to eat the whole sandwich. Just take a bite. No. As Barney Fife says, one of the great people who was a teacher, nip it in the bud. Nip it in the bud. And pray. Pray. To pray means to be still. Be still. And know who you really are and what you really are. And that everything out there that is so tempting isn't real. It isn't real. So why waste your time on the unreal? Oh, because it's so much fun being a human being. Well, be a human being, but be the best human being you can be. All right, let's see. We must feast on spiritual truth, and it comes this way, through practicing the presence, which last week was called the prayer of the heart. Practice the presence. Honor the intuitive guidance by trusting it, not questioning it. Trust your intuitive guidance and have faith that all things are working together for good. Keep that faith going until faith becomes a knowing. You don't have to have faith if you know. Become anchored in your knowing. So these are some ideas to turn your paper dolls into the real life. And you all know I'm a music fanatic, and I'm not going to sing. And I didn't ask Amber to learn this, although she is the best. I can call her at 5:30 on Sunday morning, and she'll do it. I didn't do that to you. John Mellencamp, one of my longtime favorites since I met Phil, because I never even knew much. He used to be John Cougar, and then he stood his ground and he said, my name is Mellencamp. So his name became John Cougar Mellencamp. This is called, I Want to Live the Real Life. Suzanne divorced her husband. She got the keys and the car and the home. But her friends were really his friends. No one stops by to see her much anymore. So one night she goes back down to the old haunts that once upon a time were her own. She didn't know nobody out there no more, and the whole experience just made her feel so old. She says, I want to live the real life. I want to live my life close to the bone. Just because I'm middle-aged, that don't mean I want to sit around my house and watch TV. I want the real life. I want to live the real life. Jackson was a good kid. He had 4 years of college and a bachelor's degree. Started working when he was 21. Got fed up and quit when he was 43. He said, "My whole life I've done what I was supposed to do. Now I'd like to maybe do something for myself. And just as soon I figure out what that is, you can bet your life I'm going to give it hell." He says, "I want to live the real life. I want to live life close to the bone. Just because I'm middle-aged, that don't mean I want to sit around my house and watch TV. I want the real life. I want to live the real life." I guess it don't matter how old you are or how old one lives to be. I guess it boils down to what we did with our lives and how we deal with our own destinies. But something happens when you reach a certain age, particularly to those ones that are young at heart. It's a lonely proposition when you realize that there's less days in front of the horse than riding in the back of this cart. I say I want to live the real life. I want to live my life close to the bone. Just because I'm middle-aged or older doesn't mean I want to sit around my house and watch TV. I want the real life. I want to live the real life. The real life is the spiritual life. It is seeing with spiritual eyes. It is looking past the surface of things that are just like paper. Remember paper dolls? Oh man, I'd cut out, then I'd put the little tabs on there, and the minute I start to play with them, they'd fall off. Their clothes would just fall off. Let it fall off of you. Now's a good time. We've got 40 days to lose the paper life and step into the real life.